Welcome to Changing the Game, where bold leaders, rule breakers, and trailblazers drop the playbook and share how they lead, win, and shake things up. All right, today I'm joined by Paige Rose. Paige is a former Division I softball player, Marine helicopter pilot, leadership coach, and the founder of Darkhorse Training Company. Her journey spans elite athletics, military aviation, motherhood, and entrepreneurship. Paige shares her story with honesty, and she earned her seat in every room through intentional preparation, mental toughness, and learning to believe in herself as a leader before she felt ready. Today, we're talking about her professional journey, navigating self-doubts, slowing down in certain chapters of life, and how Paige is helping the next generation of athletes build resilience for sport and for life. Welcome, Paige.
Thank you for having me today. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you here as well. I would love if you could just kick us off and share a little bit more about your journey, because you have a very long resume of accomplishments. So I want to hear it in your words. We can start at George Washington. You were captain of your softball team. Tell us a little bit about your journey to GW.
Yeah. So, just going back before GW, I had played sports my whole life. So I always knew I wanted to play college softball. And then going into college, I was always the first player there, the one that stuck around after practice because I was a pitcher, I was an infielder, I was a hitter. So I did kind of all the things which required a lot of me. And then going into my senior year, I was one of two seniors and two captains. And that's actually where I kind of had my very first leadership challenge. The previous summer, I had actually gone to officer candidate school for the Marines. So going into my senior year, I already knew that I was going to go into the Marine Corps after I got out of college. So, I went from being one of the hardest workers in the room to, I think, riding my previous reputation from the previous 3 years and already kind of looking on to the next chapter. So I always say now that the only thing I was really leading my fall semester of senior year was like the shots on Friday or Saturday night, where we'd all be going out. Because I was so checked out, not so checked out that I wasn't like showing up and performing at practice, but I wasn't taking all those extra reps. And it really started to affect, my ability to lead on the team. And I think that was like a really big leadership challenge for me right out the gate of my senior year that I wasn't really anticipating. So I had a really good run my whole 3 years, and then I took my foot off the brakes for a couple months, and I had to really do some looking in the mirror and figure out like how to course correct from there. So there's a lot that goes into all of that, but
hey, we can dive into that right away, because I am curious, like, how that impacted you. You said you had to course correct a little bit. Like, did you end up making that course correction by the time your career at George Washington was over, or did you kind of take that lesson into the Marines with you more so?
Yeah, so I would say, softball is a spring sport, so the fall is all just practice games,
Right.
practices. So I was able to kind of get away with it a little bit, but by the end of the fall, it was pretty clear that the freshmen didn't know me as the person that I was the previous 3 years. They only knew me as the leader that I was to them on that fall. So I definitely had to go home for that, Christmas break and get my stuff together. And I doubled down on the basics, came back, figured it out, and kind of returned the player that I used to be to finish out my senior year strong. But it definitely took a lot of almost digging myself out of the hole. And I really learned that year that respect is earned every single day. It's not something that you can just, ride out from previous days or previous years or whatever the case is. So that was a really good lesson for me right out the gate in college. And that's something I've taken with me my whole career for sure.
Yeah, I'm sure. I feel like that's a lesson a lot of us learn in athletics, and a lot of athletes have carried that with them. It's like, if you take your foot off the gas at all, it's like, okay, now I'm in a hole. Now I have to like dig myself out of this. And it's just something that I think, like, we're human, like, it happens in life, but that doesn't mean it's without consequence sometimes. So that's great that you were like able to get back on the horse and like dig yourself out and become the leader that you had been before.
Yeah. And I'm curious to hear what your senior experience was like.
Oh gosh. Yeah. My senior experience was interesting. I played on a great team for the 3 years that I was at Wichita State. So I transferred after my freshman year. So I spent 3 years with my team at Wichita State. Um, it was it was a lot. I was never the best on my team, I'll say that, but like to think that I gave the most to my teammates, and that's why I was able to make a really impactful time on the court, I guess you could say. So,
Mhm.
um, yeah, I think I really never could take my foot off the gas because I knew that if I did, like I had to earn my spot every single day on the court. So that
Yeah.
was really, really important for me to like always be dialed. But I had to learn those lessons. Like I definitely wasn't always dialed leading up to my senior year, that's for sure. But it took like, hey, I am a true leader on this team now. I was made a leader. Like we didn't have captains, but we had leadership teams. So kind of
Mhm.
the same thing. But yeah, it was kind of like I can't take my foot off the gas here because I was always looking over my shoulder. So that's
Yeah.
like a little bit what my experiences look like. So a little bit different than yours. But you had actually said in an earlier conversation that you were never the most. I think you said like I wasn't the fastest or the strongest, but I was really intentional, and that's how I earned my time.
Mhm.
Can you just explain what you meant by that?
Yeah, I think a lot of athletes today think that they need to be the best player on the field, and what coaches are actually looking for nowadays at the college level isn't even all about talent. It's about right fit for their teams. That's what a lot of them say. We're looking for the right fit, the right fit. And I think something that I knew really early on is like the hustle, the going out all out every single play, the you know just doing all those extra little things, the talk, all that stuff goes a really long way. And I think that's what made me stand out amongst, other talented individuals. Obviously, like I had some height to me. I threw decently hard, but I was definitely not the fastest or the strongest or, the best. So I think it's all those like intangible things that got me to where I was in college. And then I think just when you approach the game like that or you approach life like that, like it carries over into your performance. Like the quality of your reps is better, your mental state is better, you're more engaged, you're more alert, all these things. So I think just approaching it that way carried over into many different facets for me. And that's just how I've like approached life after sport even. And it's really benefited me for sure.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree. I mean, when athletes transition out of sport, I think that's something like if you're maybe the best in one arena, but you're not going to be the best in every arena or field that you play on your entire life. So you like have to lean on those intangibles. And if you didn't spend time building those intangible skills, like that effort, that coachability, being a good teammate, time management, all the things, I mean, it can be a rude awakening when you get to that next field. So I think it is so important for athletes to really become well-rounded when they're training.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about your transition then to the Marines, because you had actually said you already knew you were going into the Marines before your senior year. So how did that conversation come about, and like what inspired you to go into the Marines? I feel like I don't hear a lot of athletes say, "I'm going to go into the military post sport."
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of out of the blue, honestly. So I did know after my junior year, or after I guess going into my senior year, that that's something I wanted to do. But leading up to my junior year, I had never even thought about it once. So my younger brother was actually enlisted in the Marine Corps at the time. He enlisted right out of high school, so he was like a little lance corporal um, in the Marine Corps, and I just really liked the way he talked about the Marine Corps and like the Marine Corps' culture and its ethos and all these things. But I never really envisioned myself enlisting in the Marine Corps. And then a recruiter came to our school, an officer recruiter, and he presented the opportunity of becoming an officer and going to officer candidate school between your junior and senior year. And he kind of presented it as like a leadership internship. So I actually went into the whole thing thinking that I was just going to test it out and see if like, the Marines was a good fit for me. And at a minimum, I would get a really good leadership training experience over the summer. But what I realized when I got to the summer training was that everyone else there was like die hard looking to become Marines afterwards. And they were all super motivated, super fit, way more confident than I was. And I realized very quickly that like that is exactly where I needed to be because I knew I would be forced to grow. Like I was the least impressive person at that training. And I
Wow.
really liked that. Like I liked that I was bottom of the totem pole because I knew I'd be forced to grow. And that's what I wanted going into the whole summer training, was to be challenged and to be forced to grow in a way that I kind of wasn't necessarily challenged through college athletics the way I was hoping to be. So
Yeah. Were there a lot of other athletes that were in this sort of Marines internship, or were you one of the only there?
um I would there wasn't that many other athletes, I would say. It was just mostly, college students, or,
Yeah.
college graduates looking to serve their country. So I mean, like I said, a lot of them had been planning to go for years, or at least a year. Meanwhile, like I had made this decision 2 months prior to go to the training, so I was very unprepared, which we can talk about, a little bit later on. But yeah, no, it was something that was completely out of the blue, but it felt really right to me, and I trusted my gut, and it really paid off, because here I am, 8 years later, still in the Marine Corps. So.
Yeah, that is so cool. And I love how you said, like, I liked being the bottom of the totem pole. I think that is such a unique perspective being an athlete, where usually athletes that play D1 sports, like, you're maybe the star of your high school, and then you go to the D1 level and you're like, oh my God, everyone's like pretty good. That typically happens.
Mhm.
But you embrace that kind of like smaller fish mentality, where I always think, like, if you're the big fish in the small pond, or if you're the smartest person in the room, like, you got to find a different room, because you're not
Yeah.
learning enough people around you at that point.
I think that's just the athlete in us. We're always looking for that next thing, not that next thing, but the next thing that's going to challenge us and make us grow.
Yeah.
Because that's what we've done our whole lives. We've just looked for the better team. You want to play up a level to get better in your sport. So it's kind of all we know. And I think,
So true.
yeah, I love athletics for teaching me that at such a young age. I think it's just such a blessing.
That's so true, Paige. I think for me too, one thing I actually struggle with is, because I have that mindset of like, next thing, okay, great, now I got to move on to the next accomplishment, that I don't actually turn around and celebrate any of the wins that I just racked up. Like, I always think like, no, 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 those are expected of me. Like, I need to go for the next thing. And so
Mhm.
I've had to, in my adult life, kind of like, not unlearn that necessarily, but just really be intentional about, like, you did do a good job with that. Like, acknowledge that it's
Mhm.
okay to celebrate those things. Do you feel like you have to go through that as an adult now, post athletic career, or are you pretty good about that?
Um, I would say I'm actually pretty good about it, but only because I feel like I've always done a really good job of surrounding myself with um, the right people. So, like, for example, like in the Marine Corps, you go through training and then you become really close friends with, a lot of people that you're going through, all this, shared misery with. And the
Yeah,
only
that's a
thing
good.
to do on the weekend is to celebrate that you survived another week. So just by nature of like having that close knit group of people, it kind of forces you to like just celebrate all the highs and lows that you
Yeah.
just went through. So I think that's stuck with me throughout my entire career. I've always been surrounded by really great people and great teammates, I like to call them, because that's what they are. And I think that's what's allowed me to just stop and enjoy life for a moment every now and then.
I love that. That's a different mentality, I feel like. Like, you survived the week, so you got to celebrate the wins, or you're like, what am
Yeah,
I
you
doing?
gotta. I mean, it is easy when I will say, like, when I wasn't going through all that, shared suffering, and you're just kind of doing a normal. I mean, I've actually never had a normal 9 to 5, so I can't say I know what that's like, but I can imagine how like a 9 to 5 life you could kind of lose track of the successes, because you don't go through those severe troughs. Like in the Marine Corps, you're going through some real troughs with the people
Yeah.
around you. So it's so easy to just be on like this huge high on the back end of it. But I could see how like someone with a very steady, consistent life could lose track of like all the progress that they've just made. So I can
Yeah.
definitely see how that happens.
How would you encourage someone? I know you said you don't have the 9 to 5 experience, but how would you encourage someone who maybe does have that life, where they're not going through those dips and those highs like you were? How would you tell them to like make sure they reflect intentionally?
Yeah, I think, I mean, you kind of have to go out of your own way to like create your own, you know, not hardships, but challenges. Like you have to do challenging things, because that's what forces you to get outside your comfort zone, and and forces you to overcome certain things, and then you feel empowered on the back end. And I would just say, yeah, just challenge yourself more. Like even just going to like a hard workout class, like the high you feel after like a hard workout, like that's a win in of itself for the day. Like that's a win for the day. So that's just my 2 cents for people, is like create challenges for yourself that are going to make you better.
Yeah, I think the power of a hard workout class at the beginning of the day can do wonders, honestly. Like that's a kind of a non-negotiable for me. Like when I'm having a conversation with you, I'm like I have to go to the gym in the morning because I have to be able to give like that's the hardest thing that I'll do all day, and now I can give like consistent energy the rest of the day.
Yeah, exactly. For sure. When was the last time you had a win? I'm curious.
Oh my gosh, that's a good question. I think honestly, I think putting myself onto so just for everyone listening, Paige and I connected through an organization called Launch Break. They work with, or it's essentially a community for former female athletes who are now in their professional careers or trying to network and connect with each other. And I just put a bulletin post on Launch Break and I said, hey, I'm working on this podcast and would love to meet some cool women that would be interested in being a guest and share your story. So that's how we got connected. So I'd say that's definitely a win for me, is just kind of putting some feelers out there into the universe and seeing what comes back. And the response was incredible. So, I mean, it was kind of an easy win because Launch Break has provided like a great platform to do that. But yeah, I think that was a great win because I've had like an awesome conversation with you so far, and our conversation before this, and just learned about so many awesome women. So I think like put yourself out there and just see what ends up returning, and just take it in stride, because with no expectations. And that's what I did. Yeah. And it turned out great.
I think that's a really great lesson. And yeah, you probably got overwhelming responses. You're probably not prepared for the amount of people that were like, yes, I'll talk with you.
I know, I did. I honestly did, because it actually did shock me, Paige, because all I've been doing before this is like cold DMs on LinkedIn, or like I'll have a guest on the show and I'll be like, if you know anyone that would be interested, please introduce me. So like some warm intros, but man, sending cold DMs is kind of hard. It's like truly sales. And I feel like I would get a ton of like, you're left on red all the time. And I'm like, oh man, I promise I'm like a normal person. Like I promise that I'm not a weirdo and this is real and I'm not trying to scam you. I just want to talk to you. So yeah, it was definitely a nice change of pace. And yeah, I'd say like doing a podcast is hard. Like if anybody is interested in having a podcast, like I can talk to you about it, but it's like, it's not just like getting on here and talking to somebody. Like it does feel like sales a lot of the time, but yeah, organizations like Launch Break, where people are really interested in up leveling their careers and sharing their stories and connecting with people, like that makes it a million times easier.
Yeah. And I think you said something really important in all of that, was that you did all this cold DMing beforehand and it was exhausting and it felt like sales and you didn't love it. And then like this great like fruit just fell into your lap. And that, I feel like that's just life in general. Like you got to keep putting yourself out there and putting yourself out there. And even when it sucks, you just got to keep putting yourself out there. And then one day it's just going to be like, oh, it's going to rain and feel really great. And you're going to be like, oh, this is amazing. This feels so good, because you did all that other work previously. So I think that's just a really good like note for anyone that's listening. Like good things don't happen to people that just like sit back and wait. It's people that like go out and reach for opportunities that get that. So I think that's
no, that's exactly how you feel, and keep trying over and over and over again. Like I call it the piñata theory. I don't know if you've heard of this, but it's like, you know, when kids are at a birthday party and they're like hitting a piñata, right? Like it's like, it looks like it's doing nothing sometimes. And then all of a sudden, like the piñata breaks open and all the candy falls out. So I always think like, it's not the one strike that broke the piñata open. It's like every single little one before that looked like it wasn't doing anything. Like those were all required in order to get all the candy. So like, I think about that a lot.
That's awesome. I'm going to probably steal that, the piñata effect.
Please do the piñata theory. Oh, I love it. So I want to go back to your career in the military, because you've done some really cool shit. You're you were a helicopter pilot. So I want to hear about that. I'm terrified of helicopters. So would love to hear about your experience.
Pretty dangerous. I'm scared.
Yeah, so why did you want to be a helicopter pilot?
Again, I feel like everything that I've ever done in life has just been like me following a gut feeling and just following like the people that I feel like that I want to be surrounded by. So I didn't know I wanted to be a pilot until, I got to my next set of training. I was already a second lieutenant, and um, I was actually, I'm someone that's very afraid of heights. Never imagined myself in aviation, but all of my girl roommates that I was really good friends with in my platoon at the next set of training were going to flight school after that training. And I'm like, okay, well, none of these girls know anything about flying, and they've never flown before. So like, why can't I do it? And then on top of that, we had a little mixer of all the different jobs in the Marine Corps. The I guess the instructors would talk about their jobs, and the only ones that seemed, super gung-ho and excited about what they were talking about were the pilots. So I'm like, okay, there's something to this. These guys are like really into what they do. They think it's the most badass thing ever. I should probably listen to that. So then from there, all my friends were going to flight school, and the most, excited instructors were talking about flight school. So I was like, okay, I have to go to flight school now, regardless of like, my fear of heights or whatever the case is. I just said, I'll figure it out. And that's what I did. I went to flight school, and it was very challenging. It turns out you need really good studying habits to make it through flight school, which I had to figure that out. I did not have the best studying habits, but we made it through. I became a helicopter pilot, and it actually wasn't until I got into a helicopter for the first time that I realized that I was in the right seat, because you start out in just a regular turboprop airplane. That's the trainer aircraft that you start out in. And then you select helicopters, C-130s, Ospreys, or jets. And I selected helicopters. So then I went to helicopter training, and I flew helicopter for the first time, and I had the most fun I'd ever had flying. So I think I kind of lucked into that one. And then kind of the rest is history from there. I, got the big CH-53. That's what I selected for my aircraft, which is the big cargo helicopter that the Marine Corps has, where we transport, Marines in and out of landing zones. We bring cargo to and from, different sites. We can carry artillery pieces like externally under the aircraft. So you can do a whole bunch of things. It's a very versatile helicopter. And it was a really, really fun experience. And I learned a lot about myself throughout the process. I learned a lot about, teamwork, because it's a crew served aircraft. You have another helicopter pilot in the seat next to you. And then you have at a minimum two crew chiefs, which are the guys in the back, the enlisted guys in the back, who are kind of patching up holes and like fixing things as the aircraft's in motion. They're kind of the unsung heroes of our community. But yeah, so it's a very team environment, and it was a blast.
I'd imagine communication skills are very important for that role.
Yes, very important.
That's cool that you listened to the voice in your head that was like, ooh, this sounds exciting. This sounds interesting. Like, I'm a big believer that like, if you're kind of like, maybe, then you shouldn't do it. Like, if you're not going to feel that like, oh, I have to go pursue this, then maybe it's not the route for you. And that's what you felt. And then you got in the seat and you're like, yeah, I made the right choice here. Like, it was calling to me and I listened, and then you get rewarded for it.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people that kind of ignored that feeling before they went to flight school, like they're like, oh, it sounds cool to be a helicopter, or it sounds cool to be a pilot, but they weren't really into it. They didn't make it through flight school because it was really hard. It's really challenging. And I think that's just anything in life. Like, if you're not all in on something, like, it's not going to last, because you're going to like have obstacles that come up and hurdles that you have to jump over. And if you're not into it, then like, it's not going to last. So I think, that's just with anything.
Yeah, that's like a great lesson literally for life. It's like, it's going to fall apart. It's not going to last if you don't put that all in effort, for sure. Like, for everything. No, totally. So you were a helicopter pilot. You ended up having to transition to a new role because you started a new chapter. You became a mom.
Yeah, that was actually a choice that I made. So, you go through all this, 2.5 years of flight school, and then, you're in your squadron for 2.5, 3 years. I was supposed to be in the squadron for 4 years, but I cut my time a year short because my husband and I, we wanted to have a family. We wanted to start that next chapter. He's a little bit older than me. He's about 6 years older than me. I'm 30 now. So we were just ready to start that chapter. He was also a Marine Corps pilot, so he was actually about to get out of the Marine Corps and transition to the airlines. So we're just ready for that next chapter. And I knew that there's plenty of women who have done the whole mom and flying thing. Like I've seen many very successful women do it. I mean, they have to make, tremendous sacrifice, like with their family, their personal life, and all these other things, but they've done it very successfully. And I have so much respect for them, but that's just not the way that I wanted to do it. I wanted just a more stable schedule where I could predict what I was going to be doing the next day. Because in a flying squadron, you don't know what you're going to be doing until really 15, 16 hours prior. So you don't know the schedule until that night prior. So that would have just caused a whole lot of logistical nightmares that I just didn't want to really deal with while, embracing that new chapter that I was going to. I wanted to enjoy it. So I actually looked into different roles into the Marine Corps, and I didn't have to like quit being a pilot. I just took time away from the cockpit. So I could easily just go back, get refreshed on flying the CH-53 this upcoming year, if that's something that I wanted to do. Yeah. So I just took a little pivot, a little sidestep, and went into this recruiting role where, I pretty much make my own schedule. I'm going out and I'm training and educating the next generation of Marine officers. And that's something that I'm really proud to do because, the opportunity fell into my lap, and it was like one of the best opportunities that ever presented itself. So I actually really enjoy being able to do that for other people as well. So
yeah. That's cool that you're able to actually go back if you wanted to. And I think it's awesome that you made the right decision that you needed to at the time. Like, yeah, there's a lot of women that are successful in keeping their jobs as a pilot, but like, it just wasn't right for you in that moment. And I think there's something really strong to say about you being like, no, like this doesn't align with me right now. I'm in a different chapter of my life. What has slowing down a little bit in this chapter taught you, whether it's about leadership or success?
Well, so I guess it was a little bit of an ego hit for me at first, becoming like a pregnant Marine. I went from like walking around base in my flight suit, feeling good, going to work every day, going out flying, to wearing like my pregnancy camis where I'm like a bench player at this point. Like I'm not flying. Everyone can tell that I'm not flying because I'm pregnant, and I'm walking around not in my flight suit. So it very much felt like a bit of an ego hit. And I didn't realize how much of my identity relied on like what I was doing. So it was very much a humbling experience, and it was good to just really slow down, because that was probably the first season in my life in like 10 years, 15 years that I had like ever really truly slowed down. Like I go to work at 8, I'd go home at 4, make dinner, and then that was my day. And like I'd work out too and all those things, and I'd work on creative expression things, but it was really the first time in my life that I'd ever slowed down. So it was really good for me to just acknowledge that this is a new season. But with that, I learned that this next time around, because I just had my baby girl 2 years later, I definitely pushed myself a little bit harder in the pregnancy to do more things that made me feel like me. Because last pregnancy, I was being careful. I didn't know my own limits. I didn't know what was possible. I'd seen women work out pregnant, so I did work out, but not nearly as hard as probably I could have. And this pregnancy, I've taken it a couple steps further, and I've done a few more things that are just more me. And I haven't really slowed down as much, really at all. And I feel good about that. And it's not because I hate slowing down, but I want 4 kids. So I went into this pregnancy thinking like, okay, I want to actually enjoy this pregnancy, and I want to feel like it's not going to stop me from doing everything that I want to do. So I think it took the last pregnancy for me to realize like, okay, I can do a little bit more. And I think
Yeah.
that's kind of what I've learned, I guess. I don't know if that answered your question, but
No, it definitely answered my question. And I think like the ego hit that you mentioned is so interesting because a lot of athletes and vets experience that ego hit just post uniform, and you are still in uniform and you're like, this changes things for me and I have to learn how to navigate like the first time I'm ever experiencing this while I'm still in uniform. And
Mhm.
I could imagine how you would have to like be very intentional, or like it would be a tough time, like a tough mid transition in the middle of your career. I don't know how else to explain it. It would be definitely at a different time in your life.
Yeah, definitely a transition. And now that I don't have to wear a uniform every day with this recruiting role. So I think that's actually made it a little bit easier. Like I don't have to walk around base in I don't know why, but the pregnancy camis just really bother me. So I didn't feel confident in them. And having confidence in like not necessarily like superficially what I look like, but like look good, feel good, play good. That's just how I
Totally.
like. I was just walking around looking frumpy all the time and I didn't love it. But now this time around, like I could wear what I wanted to wear. I could live how I wanted to live, and that made honestly a world of a difference.
Well, that flight suit was probably a sense of pride for you too, and then you couldn't wear it. And so you're like, what the heck? Like I've lost my like badge of honor here too while I'm working. So that would be really hard. And no, I appreciate you sharing that experience because I know motherhood can is a huge adjustment for so many. I can't speak from experience because I haven't had that experience yet, but just talking to other women on this show too, I know that it can be a huge transition to navigate no matter what stage of life you're in. So yeah, I appreciate you sharing that perspective. And you have a new baby now, so I'm sure yeah, like you said, you are navigating the second time around a little bit differently, as everyone does. What would you tell? I'm curious what you would tell first time moms who are going through that first transition and maybe wanting to, like feel like themselves. What would you tell them?
Yeah. Well, I guess first, something I've struggled with my whole life is my own expectations for myself. Like I just have very high expectations, and then when I don't meet them, I'm like really hard on myself. So that's just something in general I've really struggled with. So going into my first pregnancy, I just had all these expectations of like, I'm still going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. And then the first trimester hit, and I'm like, I can't even walk a mile. I'm too
Yeah.
tired. Like, and then I'm like, because I saw these women online, like CrossFit athletes, like competing in, events in their first trimester and like doing all these crazy things. So I'm like, I'm going to do that. And then like, I couldn't even get myself to get up and go for a walk. So I think
Right.
just having the grace to just take it day by day, and just with anything new, like just give yourself grace. It's new. You're learning every step of the way, and every day is going to be a little bit different, and that's okay. And um, as long as you're always like working back towards, your equilibrium and what makes you happy, that's all that matters. Because I think there was like a 2 month stretch where all I did was walk in my third trimester last time around, and I'm trying to think. Yeah, that's all I did. I was basically just walked, and that's the only thing that made me happy. Was like, okay, at least I can walk my dog 4 miles a day. That's the win. And just taking like little wins and kind of stacking those, and then when you do feel good enough to do a workout, do the workout. But it doesn't have to be consistent. As long as you like are just trying each and every day, I think that's all that really matters. So
Yeah.
I don't know if that
Yeah.
answers your question.
It definitely did.
It's
Yeah.
just
No.
navigating uncharted
Yeah.
territory. That's all it is. You have to have a good mindset.
I could only imagine that's a huge part of it. And I love that you said give yourself grace. Like I think that's so needed when you're working towards anything, and especially in that time period in your life. So no, I absolutely love that advice, Paige. I want to talk a little bit about your business now, Darkhorse Training. So, what gave you the idea to start your own company while you're working in the Marines?
I've always wanted to be a coach in some capacity. Like I've known that pretty much my whole life. Like especially sports performance, like strength training and all that stuff. Like I was really big into that in high school and in college. I really loved the weight room. So I kind of always envisioned myself as like a strength and conditioning coach, but it's really evolved over the last 5 years or so, because I did do it on the side while I was in San Diego. I did a little bit on the side on this recruiting job, but it's really evolved into more than that, because as I've like worked with so part of my recruiting job is I get to work with athletic departments and do these leadership workshops. So in working with all these college athletes, I just see a lot of them struggle with all the same things that I struggled with: leadership, stress management, recovery, mindset stuff. And I think we just expect, as middle and high school athletes, that you're just going to magically evolve into this like leader and this like evolved athlete in college, when that's not the case. It needs to be developed, and it needs to be shaped, and it needs to be molded. And that's something that I'm really passionate about providing to youth athletics today, is to provide that training for youth athletes to grow and evolve in a way that they can carry with them, not just to college athletics, but after college athletics as well. Because as you know, everything in college athletics is completely transferable to your post-athletics journey to come. So I'm just really passionate about getting them on the right foot so they can start a little bit sooner than I did.
Yeah. I think that's cool that you're filling like what feels like a gap in the market. Like everyone's focused on developing youth athletes' skills, but maybe not so much that mindset piece. And maybe it's getting more of an emphasis now, but that certainly was nowhere near part of my training when I was in high school. Absolutely nowhere. And I think it was still new when I was, coming around to college. So I think that is so important to be, hey, that there's so many other, like being a Division I athlete or just being a collegiate athlete in general it's holistic. Like there's so many things that you need to refine in order to truly have success. It's not just that one thing.
Yeah. And it's actually, I would argue, like even not more important, but it leads to more success on the field, court, pool, whatever the case is. Like if you have all those other things down, like the play part, the sport part becomes way easier, because you're not like dealing with all these other stressors in your day, or you're dealing with them with more grace, I guess.
Yes. Like you're almost able to compartmentalize a little bit, or like you've addressed them instead of burying them, which is like what you were taught to do, is just like
bury whatever things isn't healthy.
Yeah, shocking, right? But that's how I felt like everything was dealt with. It's just like, you have to put it away. And I think, granted, there's always a little bit of that you're going to have to do in your life. Like you can't bring all of your baggage into every area of your life, but as long as you're using healthy strategies to like cope with them, or to deal with those things that will make you a better athlete.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, for sure. And I think sometimes it's okay to just be like, this is really hard. This is challenging, and it's going to be hard. Like if it was easy, everyone would obviously be doing it. But that's what makes college athletics so great, is like so few people get the opportunity to do it. So, but just even acknowledging that is very, it's kind of liberating for college athletes to be like, this is hard, but we're going to do it anyway. And we're going to like lean into the hard of it kind of thing. So I think that's where like the mindset piece comes in. Like it's challenging, yes, but we're going to lean into the challenge and like actually attack it instead of like avoiding it. Like I think a big one is leadership. A lot of people want to avoid leadership because it's uncomfortable, or they don't know how, or it's very unfamiliar. So they're like, well, I'll just lead by example because I'm good at that. Like I'm good at showing up early, or I'm good at, taking the extra reps, or whatever the case is. But they don't want to lean into all the other pieces, like how to be more vocal, or how to, step up when the team needs you. So that's been a really fun thing for me to do, is like put people in that position and where they have to do that, and they are really uncomfortable, but then they, rip the Band-Aid off and they just do it. And they fail a little bit, they flop a little bit, but then they realize on the backside, like, okay, that wasn't so bad. And then they're empowered to do it over and over and over again. So it's just been really fun for me to do that.
Yes, I bet. It's like each time you push yourself or you push somebody, like their comfort zone is going to expand, and it's going to become more natural to them. And you mentioned leadership. I've heard that example so many times, like, oh, I'm a lead by example type of person. And sometimes I'm like, yeah, that's great. Like you're doing what's expected of you and you're maybe going a little extra, but like how impactful is that sometimes when you need like that, maybe the vocal push or something else on the team. So I just want to hear a little bit more about your 5 pillars of resilience that you teach to your students, I guess I'll say. I know, because I know leadership was one of them. So can you expand on your 5 pillars?
Yeah, so the meat and potatoes of like what I coach is sports performance, so training. I'll kind of go like overview and then I'll dive a little bit deeper into each one. So sports performance, leadership, nutrition, recovery, and mindset. So sports performance is the training piece, so the weight room, the conditioning, and I think a lot of athletes today are just so specific with how they train, and they forget that like training is meant to make you stronger and more durable. And I think the durability piece is what's missing in a lot of training these days. So sometimes you just need to do a hard workout to show yourself that you can make it through a hard workout and push harder. Like, right. I think that is a completely transferable thing into sport. Like I can go harder, I can go further, I can do more, and I don't have to limit myself to this like very specific regimented way of like operating. Does that make sense?
Totally. Yeah.
So that's a big part of what I teach with like my training. Like obviously there's the strength part and the explosiveness, but then there's that resilience piece too. Like you're going to have to do a hard workout today. Like there's going to be a hard conditioning piece at the end of this workout and you're already going to be tired, but that is what's required of you to complete the day. So that's a big piece. And then leadership, kind of like I already talked about, there's a lot of different strategies that we use when I do my leadership workshops with the colleges, a lot of tools that we provide them. And then we go through those tools and we have them demonstrate that they know how to use the tool. So that's what I do with my programs and then with my one-on-one coaching. With my one-on-one coaching, it's more of like, here's the tool, we're going to practice it, we're going to rehearse it, and then you're going to go do it with your team later tonight when you have to go to practice. And it's something they've never done before. They're going to have to go up to their coach and ask their coach, hey coach, can I do this? The coach is going to have to like be like, what? Sure, go ahead. They're going to have to embrace all the discomfort that comes with all of that. And then they're going to go do it. And then they're going to get feedback from their teammates on how well they did. So just that whole 9 yards. If I left it up to them to just go do it, they probably wouldn't do it. But if I coach them through it, if I have them rehearse it, they feel like they know what they're doing, then they feel more confident and then they can go forward and do it. And then hopefully feel confident in doing it again and again and again. So that's the leadership piece. Let's see. And then there's nutrition. There's a lot of nutrition guidance out there now, and I have nothing against nutritionists whatsoever. I personally am not a certified nutritionist, so I don't give like meal plans or anything like that. But what I give is like the basics of what you need. I think it's really easy to get into the weeds of like, what's the perfect thing to eat before a game? What's the perfect snack to snack on before a weight training session? Like, truthfully, when you're in college, you have what you have at your disposal, and that's what you get. Like, we were eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches before games. Like, there was no prepping or anything like that. Like, we were going to Chili's after the games. Like, there's no perfect meal plan in college athletics. So that's kind of just what I'm preparing the athletes for. Like, you're going to have to just make the best decisions that you can with what you got. So that's really what I teach in the nutrition section. It's mainly just like hitting your protein goals and understanding what macronutrients are and, navigating that food is fuel and kind of the psychology behind food and all that stuff. Then we have recovery, which is kind of, I kind of mix recovery with like stress management, sleep, genuine like recovery techniques and stuff like that. So all of those things go into recovery because when you're not playing, you're recovering. And if you're stressed out, you're not recovering. So stress management is a big thing and how to deal with stress and a lot of tools that you can use to navigate that. And then finally, mindset. I think all of my pillars have mindset kind of woven into it, because how you do, or like just how you approach everything is a mindset. And I really just weave that in throughout all of my programming and all of my coaching. So hopefully that answered your question. It wasn't too long-winded.
No, definitely answered my question. I absolutely love it. I think there's so many layers. There's so many layers, especially that recovery piece that would have benefited me so much in college because I don't really think I took recovery seriously at all. I mean, my version of recovery was like going out to a party when you had a free day, I think. So it was like
the opposite of recovery.
Exactly. I'm like, I'm relaxing. Yeah, okay. Yeah. You're just sometimes look back and I'm like, I could have been such a better athlete if I would have known some of these things or prioritized some of these things. So I think it's great what you're doing for the young athletes. Is there I'm curious, is there like a myth that you hear often, whether it's in leadership or mindset or any of your pillars with youth athletes? And what should we stop telling them essentially? Like what myths should we stop teaching youth athletes?
I don't think it's necessarily a myth, but I think it's just the general undertone of all the coaching out there today. Like, you have to do it this way, or you have to do it this way. And it's like, it's so specific and it's so like dire. If you don't do this, you're going to fall behind, which I think everyone just needs to relax and just, I just think we need to apply some common sense to things more often than not. Like, it gets so in the weeds with like your training, like, are you on the right training plan? Well, genuinely, if you are lifting weights in some capacity and you've never lifted weights before, you're going to get stronger. If you go from like eating 10 grams of protein a day because you don't know anything about protein to like then the appropriate amount, you're going to get better. So I think just we need to focus less on doing things so black and white and more so just how can I navigate this specific situation to make me overall better. I don't know if that answered your question, but just it's not black and white. It's all just little decisions that you can make every single day. And if you know how to practically and logically think through those decisions, you're going to be just fine. And really, it is kind of all mindset. So,
Paige, I think that applies to everything, right? Like even outside of the athletic world, like even just like the fitness world, work, life, balance, whatever it is, it's like things don't have to be all or nothing. It's not about having perfection. It's about just doing the work. Like you said, like, hey, you don't hit your, you were eating 50 grams of protein before and now you're trying to hit, 100 or whatever it is. It's like, it's not, you're doing better. Like it's going to help you. It's going to improve you. It's sometimes, like you said, just if I have to walk today because that's all I can do, then go for a walk. If you can do the hard workout, do the hard workout. It doesn't have to be so black and white and shaming yourself if you don't do the perfect thing in that moment. So I'm with you there. I think a lot of people could learn from that there's nuance to everything. That's what I'm trying to say. There's nuance to everything. Awesome. Well, Paige, this has been such a great conversation. I just have one final question for you. It's pretty ambiguous, I'll say, our last question of the show, because this show was founded on the premise of showcasing women leaders who are out there making a difference in their industry. So I would like to know, what does changing the game mean to you?
I think changing the game means to me, just for me personally, just raising the standard for myself. And then hopefully, if other people are inspired by that, they can raise their own standards. So that's just what I look to do with anything in life, whether I'm coaching, whether I'm, being a mom or a spouse. I'm looking to just raise my own personal standard. And then maybe, it'll inspire my daughter one day to like, be even higher caliber person than I ever was, or, just I'm looking to raise the standard for myself. So that's what changing the game means for me. And if it helps someone else along the way, then that's great.
I love that. I love it. Thank you so much, Paige, for those last words of wisdom and all of your wisdom throughout the show today. Where can our listeners connect with you or reach out if they want to work with Darkhorse Training? Where can they find you?
Yeah, so I would say I'm primarily on on Instagram, it's train_darkhorse. And then my website is www.traindarkhorse.com. So definitely on Instagram, if you want to hit me up, you can find me there, and I'll definitely reply to you.
Thank you so much, Paige. I love it. Thank you everyone for listening. Appreciate all of you as well. And we'll be back with another amazing episode next time.
Thanks so much.